Well, guys, welcome back to the Stalking Shadows podcast. It's been a while, and I have an epic story to tell you guys. So, guys, if you've been following us on social media, you would have noticed that we are backing a buddy. Zwabantu is his actual name, and he is my old tracker. And this story is going to take us back to where it began. So, follow us, stay tuned. We're doing a lot for this man. I might get a bit emotional in this podcast, but there is a lot to unpack here. So, guys, old Zwei and I started our journey way back in 2009 when I got my PH license and became a professional hunter. But it goes even further back than that because Zwei and I grew up together on a farm way back when. It was a farm called Coniston. My dad owned it, and that's where we grew up as kids. And when my parents sold the farm, Zwai's family stayed on the farm, and we moved on to the next farm with some of our staff, but they chose to stay. But this is how far back this story goes. I'm nearly 40 years old. I turned 40 this year. Zwei is probably 5 years older than me, I think. He's about 45. So we've known each other for a very, very long time. And he is a unbelievable tracker and skinner. So to fast forward back to 2009, I did my license and I was in on the hunt to find a good tracker and a good skinner. And for those of you who have visited South Africa and hunted with a professional hunter, a good tracker and a good skinner is probably one of the most important parts of the team. There is no hunt without these guys. And I think people do take them for granted. They just assume that they're there and they're part of the tools in their kit and part of the furniture. But guys, I'm a firm believer that if you've got a solid tracker and a solid skinner, he makes you a solid PH. And I'll get back to that because as a young guard, let's put it that way, you need someone in your corner at the time to help you make the right calls. And especially if you get yourself an older tracker who's been part of the industry longer than you have. And that's exactly what I got in Zwei. He heard that I'd become a professional hunter. Somehow, I don't know how he found out. And he rocked up at my dad's work to find out when will I be hunting and he would like to hunt with me. At this point in time, I hadn't seen the guy in 20 odd years. That's how long we hadn't seen each other for. And I rocked up there and I was like, I do recognize you. And he goes, yeah, we grew up together on this farm. I want to come and hunt with you. I heard you become a professional hunter. So I was like, well, that's awesome. That saves me going around trying to find somebody to do this job. And he had been a tracker for a good couple of years now, for other older professional hunters than me, and had learned the trade. So he was a phenomenal hunter in the bush, and he is a phenomenal skinner. I find I've battled to find a tracker that skins as well as him, and that has the absolute passion for his job. It's not just a job to him; it's a way of life, and that's, I think, what is the most important part about this whole story is this man was made for the bush. He loves the bush, and it's all he's ever wanted to do was be out there hunting. It's his absolute passion. So Zwei and I kicked off our hunting career together, started our full season in 2010 with some amazing clients, and having him by my side made my job a little easier, because when you're young and you're still questioning about, is that any good? Is that the right thing? Or the way to approach an animal in the bush. Look, we've all hunted. I grew up hunting. Started hunting when I was 9. I only became a guide around 24 years of age. I'd done plenty of hunting in my lifetime, but having that guy being part of it, and guiding you in a way of how do you hunt with clients. It's easy hunting for yourself. It's difficult when you guide a client into a situation, and he had been in those situations already before. So he really, really helped me along my way. Judging animals, he was awesome when he was on the back of the truck. Looking for game. He'd only stop me if he'd see quality animals, or him and I would have a discussion on, is it any good? How are we going to get there? Which way are we going to go? How are we going to get this animal out? He was a massive, massive part of my hunting team. And we hunted a solid season together, 2010, 2011. We had a massive season together. But as you guys have heard, in the hunting industry, things don't go as planned. It's a very cutthroat industry. I was struggling to get enough hunts to keep Zwei happy. He was happy enough working for me, hunting with me. We never had any issues regarding that. But the man wanted to be in the bush more days than what I could offer him, because outfitters would drop you at the last minute. And this is where the sad part comes in. When outfitters drop a professional hunter at the last minute, whether they've got a hunt, no hunt, or using someone else or whatever, they're not just dropping the professional hunter, they're dropping his tracker and skinner too. Because the tracker and skinner doesn't just go carry on with that hunt. He loses an income and a livelihood as well. And at this time, I was struggling to get confirmed dates and hunts. I'd given him a job. He was working for me here on the ranch. He was getting a salary. But it's difficult to keep a tracker happy that is so used to that lifestyle of hunt and go, 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 earning dollars, earning great tips for what he's really brilliant at. And unfortunately, we went our separate ways. And the sad thing about it is, roughly 3 months later, I got so busy in my hunting career that if I could have kept him for those 3 months, I don't think we would have gone separate ways then, because I was just jam-packed with hunts. So I used multiple other trackers at the time, and he had made his way into one of the biggest companies in the Eastern Cape, hunting with them. And that's where he was. He became one of their main trackers, one of their main skinners. And I carried on with my hunting career, and he carried on with his. But we never lost touch. So we'd always bump into each other, and I was always joke and laugh with him and say, hey, one day you're going to come back and hunt with me. And we'd have a laugh about it, and we'd get on. And my staff that worked with me on the farm lived close by, and I'd always go, hey, have you seen old Zwei? How's Zwei doing? And, no, he's out hunting. He's always away. He's always busy. And that's kind of where we left it. And around 2015, I heard he'd fallen ill. And I reached out to him, and at that time, I was on my own, and I'd, been an outfitter already for a good few years. And we were hunting some South African guys, and I found him at home. He wasn't working for this company at the moment. He'd fallen ill. So I said to him, well, come join us on a trip. So he went with us. It was just a short weekend trip. The man was still struggling, and to find out that he had got TB. So he had got himself all treated, and he was back on the mend. Great for him. He got himself all fixed up, and he went back to this company of his. So That was 2015. We lose touch again, and I carry on. Life gets rolling. I end up working in Port Elizabeth for a few years, and our old nanny who had been with us for years was still working for my mom in her play school, and she lived really close to Zwei, and she came back and said, "Have you heard Zwei has gone and lost his leg?" And I was like, "No, I haven't heard." And I heard he was in a wheelchair. Tried to reach out to him, couldn't get in contact with him, and eventually I heard he was just sitting at home and doing nothing. And I was always so shocked, that he was just kind of left to his own with no support or no help. And I couldn't believe that he was just put out basically to pastures. So last year, I contacted him regarding trackers because who more to trust than your old tracker and Skinner, who was brilliant. And you know what the funny thing about it is, when I contacted him, he turned around and he said, "Don't worry, I'll phone you back in a few minutes." Hadn't spoken to the guy in a while. I actually sent my dad with the old nanny to get his telephone number, and I managed to get his mother's number. Phoned her. She said, "No problem, I'll get a message to him." Within an hour, the guy phoned me back, and we had a fat conversation on the phone. It was as if we'd never missed a beat. It was like we were still hunting together. He was still part of the team. And I said, "Well, can you find me a tracker? I'm in desperate need of a new tracker and Skinner." And he said, "No problem, I'll get back to you." So he phoned me back. I got a number, got another tracker. And funny enough, the guy that I needed a tracker for was one of Zwei and I's old clients from way back in 2010, old Kent Mouse. And I still said to him, "Hey, I'm still in contact with Zwei." And he was like, "How's he doing?" I said, "Well, unfortunately, the man's lost his leg. He's no longer a tracker. But as of a conversation over the phone, he is still doing great. He still sounds like the same cheerful Zwei, jokey Zwei that we all know." And I sit back here and I go, I should have just fed Zwei and taken him on the hunt, because unfortunately, the guy he organized me dropped me literally the day before a trip. And I'd given the guy 3 hunts, and he had accepted the hunts. And I said, "Don't worry, these are going to be long hunts, good hunts, it's good money, but you can still hunt other places, that's fine." Trackers are not tied or tethered to us. They are freelance as much as what we are as freelance professional hunters, unless they've got a permanent job with you. And he dropped me at the last minute. I figured out that hunt. We hunted that hunt. And I think I went in to go drop the trophies off with one of my guys who actually we met through Zwei, who's one of our farmhands now. As Zwei brought him to come and work with us, and he's been with us ever since. And I said to him, "We got to go find Zwei's house. I need to go talk to him. I need to find another tracker. Let's go find him." Man, we dropped the trophies off. We head to where he kind of thought where Zwei was, and we couldn't find him. And eventually somebody pointed us in the right direction, and we found Zwei. He hopped in my truck. We had a fat conversation in the truck as if we had never parted ways. It was a joker minute. He was teasing good old Msogolo in the back. And I sat there going, "Man, where can I find these trackers?" And he says, "Man, Wayne, they're very hard to come by. They're very few and far between. Good old solid guys that are still capable of hunting in the bush. Most of the guys our age and older have decided to do something else. But the younger guys just don't want to commit and don't want to hunt properly. The generation is too soft." That's what he said to me. And I stood there and I looked at him and I said, "But there's nothing wrong with you." And he goes, "No, he's still fit. He's still strong." I said, "Right, I've made up my mind. I've missed you so much. I'm fetching you on this date. I'm going to put you on a damn paint tin and you're going to skin every animal that I hunt with my client. You don't need to even be in the bush with me as long as you just look after my client's skins. Because every time I get a tracker, I end up having to worry about the skins, not knowing the capability of his work, the skinning side of it. And I don't need to have those worries. If you're hunting with me, I don't have to stress about that. So be it. So I think it was 2 days later or 3 days later, we were getting close to our hunt. I said, I'm actually going to pick you up a few days earlier. Come to the farm. We'll get you all set up. And guys, he's a one-legged man on crutches now. The guy came here. We were getting camp all set up for clients. He's not one of these guys who sits back and watches anyone do anything for him. He just grabs the tools, gets on with it, and off he went with his crutches, cleaning, tidying, helping, and joking with the rest of the staff like good old Zwai's meant to be. And I looked at this man and I was like, holy smokes, the mental strength that this guy has had coming from being an active tracker, skinner, out in the bush, to losing his leg and still having that positive outlook on life. And it's unbelievable how strong this dude's mind is. And the first part of our trip, I went and hunted buffalo using another tracker and skinner on the property there. They looked after me there and did the skinning and caping. But the second half of the trip, which is Tim's hunt, we hunted on this property and we hunted on a couple of other open ranch properties, and we hunted with Zwai and good old Msogolo, who's Zwai's friend, and they hunted unbelievably. This dude was on the back of the truck. He had his binoculars with him. I'd drop him off in places. He was still old Zwai, eagle eye, spotting all the animals that you could think of, pointing me in the right direction, where I need to go. It was unbelievable. It was as if we had never parted ways. It was just amazing. And Tim can vouch for me how unbelievable he is with a knife and the quality and care he takes in skinning and caping those trophies. The way that man goes around on his crutches is unbelievable. He moves through the bush better than some guys with two legs, and he's on a set of crutches. And at the end of the hunt, I sat down with my wife and I was like, what can I do to help this man get back to what he is absolutely driven and passionate about? He is built to be in the bush. And we sat there and I was like, I need to get some form of donations. We need to get this guy a leg. He needs to get back to it. And we decided to put a Back a Buddy account together for him. The response we have had regarding Zwai and Zwai's injury and getting him that prosthetic leg has been absolutely phenomenal. And we couldn't ask for anything better. I just dropped it out with a few people that I knew. We started promoting it on social media. Guys jumped in. Obviously, my brother being one of the first guys to jump in on and offering his assistance what he can. And then I reached out to Sean Kogut. I've never met the man. I've spoken to him a few times on the phone. We're supposed to jump on a podcast together. And I said to him, but I've got a tracker that's in need. And this is his story. Could you share it with a bunch of people? I've got a link in the page, and guys, Sean and Salt Lick have gone above and beyond helping us get things. He brought a few friends along. There's so many people that I can't mention them all in this podcast, and it's just unbelievable how the hunting community has come together. So let's give you a full story. It's not going to be a long story, but what Zwai actually told me that happened. So Zwai, in As I said, in 2015, when I met up with him again, he had fallen ill and had got TB. But he got better, went back to the company, and in 2016 they went hunting up in Limpopo area. They went to go hunt lion, and he his leg started feeling funny, and he went to the outfitter to say, "My leg's not feeling great. There's something that's not right," and it was kind of like shrugged off. He came back from the hunt and then unfortunately ended up in one of our state hospitals. So if you've got a medical aid in South Africa, guys, you're going to end up in a state facility. And this is where everything seemed to have gone wrong. So he ended up in the one in Grahamstown, the Settlers Hospital in Grahamstown, for a full month of them not knowing what's wrong with his leg. And all he said he could feel was that his leg was funny and it was actually itching. He couldn't, it just got itchy at times, but it just felt like it was dead. Then when they couldn't find anything wrong with him in Settlers Hospital, they sent him to Port Elizabeth and they put him into the big hospital in Port Elizabeth in Livingston, where he was stuck there for 3 months in bed. They were doing all kinds of tests, trying to figure out what's going on with his leg. And he said eventually they were bandaging his leg up. His kneecap started moving around. And when they kept taking the bandages off, his whole skin and everything started coming off with it. Eventually a doctor came from Cape Town to finally find what Zwei explains to me like a ball in the back of his calf, which was a massive, massive infection. So unfortunately, with the state care, they don't really explain to you what's actually wrong. So the more I asked why, I was like, what did they say it was? And they said, no, he just had a massive infection and it was going up his leg. And if they didn't amputate his leg now, it would get in the rest of his body. So basically, he had sepsis. And this is where they had to remove his leg. And that was in 2016. So a man that's been in the bush, active, avid man, hunter, just lost an income. He lost his livelihood. Then he was just a number. And he had been sitting without work all this time. So if you think of it now, it's 9 years since he lost his leg. And he is such a strong-minded character. And when I got him to come and hunt with me, it was, I'm coming, I'm game on. And this is the reason why I've gone out of my way to get this man a prosthetic leg. And that's where everyone involved is so important. And we are so appreciative for all the donations that have come in on the back of Buddy. For Steve from, I think it's X22 Adventures. I might have messed that up, but that's Steve. From Salt Lick, from Sue Tidwell to, let me not forget old Dylan from PH Journals. He has been unbelievable. Him and his partner getting us in with a doctor, she being a physio. It's just unbelievable the amount of people that have decided to jump on board with us. And we can't thank anyone enough for the help. But we're still a long way off to getting Zwei back on 2 feet and getting his stride back, as I say. And that's where everyone else comes in, where the donations are so important on the back of Buddy, because this is going to be a long process of getting him backwards and forwards to the specialist to get a prosthetic fitted correctly. We have got a prosthetic that has been donated already kindly to Zwei. It's coming from America. It's all been organized via Sean and Salt Lake with Steve. It's all coming out. And we have got the doctor lined up who's going to help Zwei get that all fitted, and we need to get him through physio and get the man to learn how to walk on two legs again. So this is just, how can I say, I'm rambling on a bit. A huge thank you to everyone out there who has supported, and please, for those who would like to get involved, find the link in my description, find the link on my social media page on African Brothers Safari, on Instagram and on Facebook, and support somebody who really, really needs it, because I don't think there's anyone else I would be doing this for. He's just one hell of a guy, and he needs to get his life back. So, guys, if you're enjoying these podcasts, this is not a long podcast by any means. It's just a story about Zwei, the reason why we're doing the Backup Buddy, and something that I think everyone should be involved with. So, till later, guys. Cheers.